88% of the work week is spent communicating, typing, talking, and going back and forth on topics until everyone is on the same page. It's time for a change. It's time for Grammarly. Grammarly's AI ensures your team gets the point across the first time, eliminating misunderstandings and streamlining collaboration. It goes beyond basic grammar to help tailor writing to specific audiences, whether that means adding an executive summary, fine-tuning tone, or cutting out jargon in just one click. 4 out of 5 professionals say Grammarly's AI boosts buy-in and moves work forward. It integrates seamlessly with over 500,000 apps and websites, is implemented in days, and is IT approved. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who trust Grammarly to elevate their communication. Visit grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI.
If there's one thing that my family and friends know me for, it's being an amazing gift giver. I owe it all to Celebrations Passport from 1-800-Flowers.com, my one-stop shopping site that has amazing gifts for every occasion. With Celebrations Passport, I get free shipping on thousands of amazing gifts. And the more gifts I give, the more perks and rewards I earn. To learn more and take your gift giving to the next level, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/audio. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/audio.
Hey friends, the holiday season is almost here and Modernish is ready to slay with their festive collection. They've got t-shirts and hoodies to keep you cute and cozy. Join them in spreading holiday cheer. Let's make this season the most stylish one yet by logging on to modernishbrand.com. This is Girl Stop Playin, a weekly show that empowers Black women to stop playing with their potential so they can live a life that they love. I'm Coriel, your favorite homegirl, and I'm on a mission to help Black women make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you're willing to work. Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playin podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Coriel, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know that I'm bringing you the information and the conversations to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And today we have a working woman joining us virtually in our virtual Girl Stop Playin studio. She ain't new to this. She is true to this. She is a podcast OG, just like I consider myself to be. And so I am beyond excited for those of y'all who were here since Confessions of a Workaholic. You have heard a part of her story, but I'm excited to get caught up and to catch y'all up on Makini Smith and what she has going on these days. So welcome to the show, Makini.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me back on the show. It's been a hot minute.
It has been a minute. You know, all those memes where it's like the jump between 2019 and 2024. It seems like a lifetime ago, because when I went back, I wanted to be able to say what year I talked to you last on the previous podcast, just so I could reference that conversation. And when I looked back, I was thinking it was going to be like 2016, 2017, but it was 2019. It seems that long ago. Pre-pandemic life is like a foreign memory. And so I'm excited to catch up with you, as I mentioned. But before I get into kind of who you are and introducing, more of what you are currently doing now, give yourself a proper introduction. Who is Makini Smith in this season?
Wow. Thank you, first of all, for that opportunity. Makini Smith in this season, I wear so many hats right now, starting with mother of 3. I am a grandmother.
Mind blowing for everybody. Everybody who's watching this on YouTube, I know y'all are like, wait a minute, girl, stop playing, but we're going to talk about it.
I am a transformational mindset coach. Presently, I train leadership teams for organizations. I have a podcast called the Heal Her Podcast. I'm a 5-time author. I wear a lot of hats, but those are some of the main ones.
Yes. Okay. So let's start with this grandmother thing, because I think when I saw you post, we had previously talked about, the ages of your kids when you were on the podcast previously, and you had kids that were, I would say they would be older kids,
They were
right?
older.
For lack of better description, they were older kids. So how old were you when you had your first daughter? Because you have 3 daughters?
I have 2 girls and a boy.
Okay. How
Yeah.
old were you with your oldest daughter?
So my oldest daughter, I had her when I was 17, and
Mm-hmm.
she is now 27.
Y'all, okay, if you're not watching this on YouTube, click the link and come see on YouTube so you can see for yourself how mind-blowing this is. You have a 27-year-old daughter. First of all, I did not think that she was 27.
Hmm.
Um, I thought, I mean, they look amazing and beautiful, as do you. You definitely don't look like you could be anyone's grandmother. So I want to just unpack this a little bit, because part of what I've been talking a lot about is me telling my personal business, which I always do, but talking about my mother wound, my mommy issues,
Hmm.
my lack of a nurturing and loving relationship with my mother. And in doing my own work and just doing this deep dive on like these generational traumas and just the maternal issues that a lot of times present themselves specifically in Black families, one of the things that I'm realizing is that once you become a grandparent, a lot of the times you can correct those things that you just didn't know
Hmm.
with your kids, and a lot of the times you can um want to make up for, or get it right or get it better, do it better with your grandkids. What would you say in this season, because you're still very much raising your own children, but what would you say is the distinct difference between your role as a mother versus how you serve as a grandmother?
Ooh, I have goosebumps. That's a powerful question because I've been in therapy every week for the past year and a bit. So understanding my own generational and mother wounds is really, forefront of my mind. And in the process, so it's my middle child that made me a grandmother. So she's 23. And I think the difference is when I became a mother, I was young. There was a lot of hurt and trauma and things that I didn't even know that I had until I was probably in my 30s that I was carrying. So how I interacted, how I moved through the world, the relationships that I had were probably not in the healthiest manner. So now that I'm in my mid 40s, being a grandmother that has intentionally worked on her healing, being a woman who is in the personal development space for over 10, like probably about 10 years now, the awareness that I have. So how I interact with my granddaughter is very different. And my daughter sees that. And I'm also able to interact with her on a different level and having more patience with her, more understanding, more awareness. So, people talk about when you become a grandparent, the love they say is actually, it feels greater than that of a parent. And I can see sometimes my daughter is like, how come she gets all the attention? Like, what about me? I'm here too. So I feel as there's a heavy difference in the version of me that they get, a heavy difference in how I interact. And obviously, that now changes the dynamics of how my daughter receives me as a mother.
I think what we are doing better, I don't want to say what we're getting right because we're still a work in progress, but what we're doing better than previous generations is at least acknowledging that
Mhm.
there's some work to be done and then taking some action to do it. Our generation is the mental health matters generation. Our generation is the generation of gentle slash intentional parenting, where we are realizing how we were parented and how we want to do things differently, so that our children can experience something differently. So kudos to you for even taking that step to go to therapy, because
Thank you.
I know you're in Canada. So I'm trying to shy away from just saying the Black community, because I feel like there are definitely differences. We're both Black women, but the Canadian background versus the American background, I know there are some nuances, lots of similarities, but some nuances to kind of cultural things and how we were raised. But in the Black community here in America, mental health is not a conversation. If you got to go
Mhm.
to the therapist, you are crazy. If you got to sit on somebody's couch, you need to be certified. Like that was just the stigma and the stereotype that I grew up in. We weren't having these conversations. And so for you to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do something different because I want something different, even if you learn it, at 30, at 40, whenever, there are 50, 60, 70-year-old mothers and grandmothers who refuse to acknowledge, that anything could have been done better, or refuse to accept, the hurt or the pain or the trauma that they've caused. And so I think that we are literally being the chain breakers, and it is hard. It is tough.
Girl.
I want to go. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, I'll relate it to my own relationship with my own mother, where I grew up being super close to my mom. And as I got older, all of my siblings, whenever they had issues with my mom, I was like, oh, but she's mom. And now that I am on my own healing journey, I keep her at a severe distance because of her denial of the hurt and trauma that she's caused, and even her present behavior that is very unhealthy and overbearing. And I'm like, I am a 40-odd-year-old woman. You don't need to know all of my business. You can't tell my kids what to do. Like, so yeah, I get it.
It's tough. I think we normalized a lot, or at least I did. I not even normalized it, but when you're a kid, you really only know your mother. Unless you grow up in extremely abusive situations where it is just clear that something is wrong. A lot of the abuse and trauma that we experienced was emotional, psychological. It wasn't things that you would have known to be out of the ordinary if this is all that you know. So for a lot of us, it's not until we reach a certain age or go through, something traumatic and expect our mother to be there for us, or become mothers ourselves and really see, a different kind of perspective on parenting. Most of us normalize these behaviors. And then when we start to realize, okay, well, wait a minute, something is off, we're not usually met with a lot of support. It's usually like, but that's your mom, or, you got to give her grace. You got to respect your mom because she's your mom. And there's not really a lot of safe spaces to even explore the possibility that some things may have been off. And it makes it even trickier when you feel like you did have a loving relationship, or, your mother was there for you, but then now as an adult, you have a different perspective. And it's like, wait a minute. I was accustomed to this, but it was natural for me, but it was not normal.
Or it was normal in our community or normal in our family, but it's traumatic. We normalize so many things in the Black community that are traumatic. So I think it was me spending time around women in the white community that were actually openly speaking about their mother wounds, and how they had realized that they had experienced narcissistic abusive relationships because of their upbringing with their mothers. And those were the light bulb moments for me where I was like, oh no, I need to go unpack this on somebody's couch right now.
That I literally, my so far it's the highest downloaded, highest played, streamed episode, and it's the episode that I did on the mother wound. And when I tell you, there are literally close to 5,000 comments from women all around the world, all different generations. I saw women 80, not 80. I saw the oldest might have been, I think she was 68, that commented and said, never in my entire life have I felt seen. Never in my entire life have I heard anybody like, this is my story. I thought that I was crazy. I thought that I was the one that was making my mom behave this way. And so a lot of it is hidden. It's wrapped up in shame because we think that we did something wrong. We think that we caused it. We think that, we're the one with the problem, until you hear somebody else having this very taboo conversation. And in preparation for another upcoming episode, I was talking to a therapist who specializes in this area and wrote a book in this area. And she was talking about the differences culturally and how her white counterparts, it is not taboo for, and she just mentioned, the white community, but it's not taboo for their community to disconnect and disassociate with their parents. But for Black people, it's like, baby, you are the problem if you can't talk to your mama. If you can't have a relationship with your mother, it is your fault. And because of that, we'll just stick it out. We'll just, go alone and get along and literally be abused so that we can save face. And that is toxic.
Extremely toxic. And I experienced all of that.
All of that. So this is not an American thing, unfortunately. It's not even well, let me ask you this, because I know there is a lot of Caribbean culture in Canada. Does your mother have Caribbean roots?
Yeah, both my parents are Jamaican.
Okay, well, there it is. I was going to say the common thread of this conversation is like Black American woman / Caribbean experience.
Sorry, but what I'm seeing here is Caribbean background or African background.
The colonialism, the post-traumatic slave, it's just, I mean, it is so deep, and we wonder why we get in these revolving door relationships where they might not necessarily be abusive, but they could be with narcissists, they could be with men who emotionally abuse us, and it's because this is all we know. This is what's normal for us. We're used to people gaslighting us. We're used to people mistreating us. We're used to people not nurturing us. And so we go out and we find familiarity in men who do the same thing. And then we wonder why we just can't get right. Regardless of what we achieve, what we accomplish, we still end up in these relationships, whether they're romantic relationships or even toxic friendships or these money situations, because this can have an impact on your finances, on your self-image, literally on just your entire being is affected by that most important relationship, which is the relationship that you have with your mother. Now that you've done your own work or started to do your work, because I don't think it's like you're going to finish it, but now that you're on the journey, how would you say your mother wound is showing up or has shown up in your life?
Whew, I have goosebumps. So the episode that I did on your Confessions of a Workaholic podcast, the month that episode came out, which was October 2019, that month is where everything completely turned around for me, because I was in a relationship. I thought I had it all, the family, the job, the partner, all the things. And the guy that I was with for almost 2 years moved out of my house and ghosted me and blocked me on social media. Like, it was like October 16th. Okay. So it was through that traumatic experience where I kept silent about it through shame for months. And it wasn't until January, because social media is nosy. So once you put your relationship online, everybody wants to know your business. And people started reaching out saying, hey, I haven't seen you guys together. What's going on? Da, da, da. And through going on nature walks with people in my network that are actually experts, that are therapists, that are coaches, counselors, also all of those things, is where I had my aha moment, where it was like I was in an extremely psychologically, emotionally, and financially abusive relationship. And it was my mother wounds that caused me to feel like that was all normal. So when you ask how it showed up in my life, it was like that experience. Since that last episode, I am a completely different person now. Now that I am aware of those mother wounds, now I'm aware of those past behaviors, those things that I would brush off, or those things I would make excuses for. So now being very intentional about healthy boundaries, being very intentional about the people that I let in my space, being, girl, I don't know why I'm having so many goosebumps with this episode. But it has been a lot. And if I didn't go through that traumatic breakup where I was making very good money and I thought I was being the supportive girlfriend of helping the guy in transition and all these things, and trying not to, emasculate him by making anything known outside of the relationship about his financial struggles. So we'd go out to dinner and he's still using my credit card and all these things, and realizing this guy had a pattern. And he knew to seek out women like myself, where we, financially have it all together, single mom, faith-based, all these things. We became targets. Mm-hmm. And I've had conversations with his exes since then. We were all very similar, but we all had mother wounds. We all had, our childhood traumas and childhood wounds that allowed us to think that we need to be a people pleaser. We need to, do all these unhealthy things that in the moment we thought were normal. So now that I know they're not normal, those patterns have stopped. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I am on my healing journey, which is why, I told another therapist that I had on my podcast that I go to therapy every week. She's like, that's a lot. That's like going to the gym every day. And I'm like, listen, I have a lot to unpack. I have a lot to work through, and I refuse to be stagnant. I refuse to be that person that I'm getting older, but I'm not learning lessons, that I'm not self-reflecting. How did I contribute to this? What can I learn from these past experiences? How can I change? And how can I no longer accept these type of behaviors, not only from men, but family?
Did you know a 2018 study showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual. When I was 4 months pregnant, I couldn't find a prenatal I could trust, so I created my own. Ours is made traceable, third-party tested for heavy metals, and recently earned the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. But don't just take my word for it. Get 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
Early holiday savings have arrived at Tanger Outlets. Discover the best gifts from your favorite brands, perfect for everyone on your list. And stack your savings with up to 70% off, plus an extra 15 to 25% off only during Tanger Style. Save at Polo Ralph Lauren, Old Navy Outlet, Under Armour, Skechers, J. Crew Factory, and more. Hurry in. These early holiday deals last through November 24th. Tanger Outlets. More savings, more cheer.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Mm-hmm. This is why doing the work is essential. I mean, it really, I want to say it's not optional, but obviously it is optional because you can choose not to, but it should not be optional because everything in your life is going to be affected if you have not gotten to the root of the trauma. And for most of us, it is something in our childhood.
Mhm.
And so what I've seen happen is we will attract these people based on our deficits. So based on this lack of love, lack of a healthy relationship with our mother or our father, we will chase familiar situations that gives us that same feeling of what we are used to. So what happens is you will literally get ghosted. You will get used, abused. You will normalize this. You will get ghosted by this man who is no good, who was not worth your time, who did nothing but waste your time, but you will still feel like you want him. You will still feel like you lost something. You will still feel like I got to go out and replace him and end up chasing someone very similar because you don't pause for long enough to say, okay, let me get to the root of this. Let me get to the root of why I keep accepting something that I know, like my mind, logically, this don't make no sense. So
Right.
how do I still get caught up in my emotions so much so that I am willing to subject myself to this type of treatment? So many women don't pause for long enough to take accountability and really unpack, how did I get here?
Mhm.
You know, it only took me one abusive relationship for me to say, okay, skirt, hold on. What was wrong with me? Like I
Mhm.
could blame you for all the things that you did, but how did you even get here? How do I
Right.
even know you? How did I even, like accept you into my space? And so I'm the only one that can take accountability for that. So what was I going through? What kind of crazy was I going through that I even attracted you? And until we can get real with ourselves, I'm not even talking about a therapist. Until you
Mhm.
can get real with yourself,
Mhm.
you're going to continue to repeat those unhealthy behaviors and frustrate yourself trying to figure out, how did I get back here?
Yep. It took me 2 years to feel that I could trust myself to date again. And in
Mhm.
those 2 years, like the within maybe 6 months of that breakup where I had my aha moment and I was like, I attract narcissists. And I said it publicly. I wrote it on Facebook, on Instagram, and people are like, girl, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, no. I'm taking accountability right now. So I need to know, because we are like magnets, what am I doing to attract this? And it wasn't until I started to do the work within me that I was able to I'm actually dating someone I went to high school with, but we have both been on our personal development journey. We know each other. We've known each other. We've been friends this whole time. So being able to connect with someone that is energetically, vibrationally, spiritually where I am.
because everybody that you're connecting with is spiritually, vibrationally where you are. That's the thing. So what you are attracting, I won't even stop at attracting. What you are attracting, but also what you're entertaining, because you don't have to entertain everything that you attract.
Yeah.
Right. We're always attracting something, but what you're willing to entertain is a reflection of how you feel about yourself.
Yes.
So when you are willing to settle for just what you can get, you know, you willing to be a side chick, you willing to be a part-time, even if you're not a side chick, you willing to just take what you can get. Because there's a lot of women who are not necessarily like dating someone that's in a committed relationship with someone else, but you're still collecting crumbs. You're still willing to just pick up on the weekends. You're still willing to just be the, you know, the late night. You're still willing to accept less than you know that you deserve and less than you desire because of these root issues. Now, this is what I really look. I didn't even know we was gonna end up having this mother wound conversation with me. I swear this is not on my notes. Okay, this is not on my notes. I ain't even noticed this about you. But what I did, I knew about the breakup. And I had seen, you know, we all saw the public relationship. And to your point, yes, once you go public with a relationship, people expect you to go public with the breakup. So it's only a matter of time before people start sending those messages like, sis, what is going on here? How did you deal with that part of it? Because for people like us, with the work that we do and with both of us being so visible on social media and in our local community, people do know a lot about us that can be uncomfortable sometimes, especially when the things that they know are not things that we're happy about or, you know, like proud to be going through a breakup. How did you handle a public breakup?
So the relationship ended October and I didn't announce anything till January. I needed time to sit with, like, I was a mess. When I say a mess, I mean an absolute mess. So the messages that started coming in, I filtered, like, if they were people who didn't regularly interact with me or I didn't know who they were personally, I left you on red. It's none of your business. If it was people that I did know, I would say, we're not together right now. And of course, what happened, blah, blah, blah comes through. And I would kind of surface level answer those questions because I wasn't ready to talk about it. I was still, like I said, in feeling shame because I was like, you were my dependent for 2 years, yet you ghosted me. My accounts are now empty. My credit cards ran up. I need to figure out how to rebuild right now. So I was still processing all of these things while being a mother. So I didn't have the capacity to entertain people asking me my business that didn't deserve to know my business. So socially, I didn't really, I guess, explain things in the beginning. And then as I had my aha moments and I started working with a therapist and started going through things, it was understanding, Brene Brown says shame loves secrecy. And a therapist in my network this week said, shame is like mold. It grows in the darkness. So being able to shed light on the situation without giving too much detail. So I started with very, I'd say surface level, again, where I was talking about awareness of the character traits of someone with narcissistic personality disorder. I was talking about the awareness of what financial abuse looks like. I was talking about the different levels of abuse because, especially in the Black community, if he's not hitting you physically, then what's the problem? So getting people to understand spiritual abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse. I was talking about the awareness of that on my platform because a huge part of what I do is educating people. So through my experiences, without giving too much detail, I was educating and creating awareness on those things. And it wasn't until, funny enough, I think it was just maybe, was it a year, maybe 2 years ago, where I shared on my podcast in full detail from start to finish what I experienced in that situation because I had watched the documentary, The Tinder Swindler. And I was like, wait a minute, I dated a Toronto version of that. So I shared in full detail, and that's probably my most listened to episode in the 6 years of me doing my show. And in sharing those details, it was extremely vulnerable, but I was at a place now where I was like, been there, done that. You can't shame me for something that I'm putting out there. And I've moved on. I'm not crying saying boo-hoo, like I want this guy back or I miss this guy. It was sharing details of the experience And like you said, when you share those things, you have people reaching out to you saying, oh my God, this is my story. Like the amount of successful, financially independent women that reached out to say, holy crap, I had a guy do this to me too.
Mhm.
Mind blowing, mind blowing.
It's literally like you have a target on your forehead that's like, I'm independent, and because I don't need you for anything, all you got to have is time.
Mm,
Like successful, independent women, all we need is your time because we don't necessarily need you for those things. So, not that we don't desire those things, but if you
mm,
got the personality, if you got something else that we like, you don't have to have all of that other stuff because we got it. So,
mhm,
we a lot of times find ourselves in those situations where people on the outside looking in will be like, well, how did you get caught up with him? And how did you end up in that situation? How could you get tricked by him? But it's because of these childhood trauma, these deep rooted issues that we don't even realize are subconscious choices. We don't even realize what is really, causing us to get into these situations because we have not done the work. For so many of us, we focus so much on that professional success that we can be a personal mess
mm,
and nobody would know. Nobody would
mm,
know because
mhm,
from the outside looking in, we look like we got it all together. So
mhm.
it is, it is so sad when super successful women who seemingly have it all together are targeted by these type of men because they know that they can come up, they can pull up with the bare minimum and play those, psychological games and get away with this laundry list of craziness. So I love that you were able to turn, this personal pain into like a public sermon on what not to do. I also want to know though, going through this publicly is one thing, but going through it privately in front of your children,
Mm, mhm,
how did you explain to them? Because I'm sure they knew, like they got
mhm,
ghosted too in all of
mhm.
this. So
Yep.
what was those conversations like, as well as the lessons that you hope your daughters learned?
Yeah, all of that. So there was a lot of conversations that needed to be had with especially my girls because they saw a lot. Um, and my son, interesting enough, so he's 18 now, and I remember him saying to me the year after that relationship ended, before he heard me say it on social media or a podcast, he was like, "Mom, you attract narcissists," including my dad. So his understanding of the situation, realizing that this guy was in our house, claiming he was looking for work, claiming he was building a business when he was on YouTube or scrolling on social for his next victim. Like they saw things that I probably didn't even see. When I'm out working or going to events, they see him laying there doing nothing. Like they saw things. So I had to apologize to my kids. I had to apologize to them for me not being the mother that they needed me to be during those 2 years. I had to apologize to them for not seeing things they may have seen. I had to apologize for allowing things in my home that I never would have allowed on any other situation. So it required me to apologize to them first. And what was hard for me is that same year, or I think it was a year after, my eldest daughter was in a similar situation.
Mhm.
So her heartbreak from that was again like heartbreak for me all over again, helping her through that. Um, there was so many conversations and so many, I guess, aha moments from that breakup. But also, I think my kids, after them seeing that, and even seeing their own father's behavior, it's like I don't want that. I know what that looks like. No, thank you. So my hope is that they do way better than I have ever done, and that they don't have to wait until they're as old as I am to figure it out. Um, but I feel like you said, sometimes our childhood wounds, childhood traumas, subconsciously they stick with us, and we don't realize that as adults we are walking around with all these childhood things still going on within us. And I do believe my kids will be talking about me in therapy one day, no matter how much work I do, no matter how much I apologize. But my hope is that they don't have to experience the depth of what I went through. And my hope is that they do way better, and that the work that I'm doing now falls onto them and so on and so forth, so that we're healing generations, because we don't need to be repeating these things.
Let me tell you, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say that you literally broke a generational curse just by apologizing. Because the acknowledging, like, it's really hard to just acknowledge, oh, I messed up. Oh, I shouldn't have put you in that situation. Oh, I could have done better. Acknowledging it to yourself is hard. To apologize to your child, who, let our parents tell it they don't owe you nothing out, you stand in a child's place. That whole rhetoric that, generations in the past kind of operated under, we are doing things differently. Like, you are literally breaking a generational curse just by apologizing to your children when you get it wrong, telling them that you could do, that you want to do it better, showing them that you are human. Because when we don't show our children our human experience, then first of all, they grow up thinking that we're superhuman and having, these expectations that we just cannot live up to. But when they get into their trouble, when they start having their problems and they realize that they are human and they're going to make mistakes, if they grew up in a household with parents who were seemingly perfect, they're going to internalize that. They're going to think that they're the only ones with problems. They're going to have shame, surrounding their challenges, because according to their childhood, their parents were perfect. So I think it's such a revolutionary act to say, I know that I'm not perfect, and I'm not even going to say I'm doing the best that I can. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do better. I'm going to apologize for what you just experienced, and then I'm going to tell you, watch me try to figure it out, so that you know that when you make a mistake, you can give yourself grace, you can acknowledge where you went wrong, and you can try to do it better. And that, to me, is the best that we can possibly do. Because, baby, Lord knows I don't want my kids sitting on the couch talking about me. But chances are, I'm not perfect. So chances are I'm going to say something. They're going to see something. Something is going to happen over this lifetime that, they're going to, I'm probably going to owe them an apology for, but I'm willing to apologize. And I think that is that's so valuable.
Thank you. Thank you.
So in terms of the work that you do in working with women and helping them, identify and overcome these limiting beliefs, what are some of the, I guess, biggest challenges and most common limiting beliefs that you are seeing your clients come to you with?
So my mentor, Bob Proctor, one of his quotes that I love is, the only limits in life are those we impose on ourselves. And with all of my clients, corporate or personal, it is this belief that we can't do a thing. We all have these limitations that we put on ourselves. And whether that stems from your childhood wounds of what a parent told you couldn't do, or the environment that you were in didn't allow those things, us now as adults being able to push through those beliefs, to ask ourselves, where did those beliefs come from? Are they true, and are they helpful? So I think that's one of the main things. And then two, again, it's still connected to, our childhood, but self-image, like how we see ourselves. And it's not just the self-image on the outside of how we do our hair, or our makeup, or how we walk, or how we talk, any of those things. It's the view that we have of ourselves on the inside, because that's what affects our relationships with other people. That's what affects our business opportunities that we believe we are capable of going after. That's what gives us the confidence to go after those things. So that self-image piece, I think many of us have this belief that we can't do certain things. We put these limitations on ourselves based on either what we've seen or what we haven't seen, which is why representation is very important. But it's like, I'll ask my clients when they say, well, I can't do this, this thing, or I've never seen anyone do this thing, or I have to go after this promotion in this way. And I'm like, why? Who told you that was the only way to do it? Well, we've never seen anyone in the company. And well, that's their path. You can surpass that, or you can change that. So we have this belief that we can't do things a certain way. So when we challenge that belief, we can actually open up our minds. And when we look at ourselves internally different, we can affect the relationships that we have with other people. Naturally, we project our insecurities out into the world. So if you feel like you physically don't look well, or you feel like you go into a room and you're insecure about that opportunity or being in that space, all those things, you're projecting that out into the world. So that's how you show up. So, our beliefs about what's possible and our self-image are probably two of the main things that I see.
I literally am reading The Psychology of Winning right now, and the chapter I read last night was on a positive self-image. And so this is literally right in alignment with what I was just reading last night. But the power of your perception of yourself and how other people will perceive you. So, literally, and I mean, women, we have heard 1,000 times, probably 1,000,000, when you look good, you feel good. But it's not just a physical look. It's really I would kind of switch it and say when you feel good, you look good. Because when you feel good about yourself, you're gonna look good to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I would kind of switch it up a little bit, but it's so important that we even recognize the self-image that we have of, like how we really feel about ourselves, because social media and these filters will have you feeling like you see yourself one way, but that 2 a.m. version of you that's like laying in bed by yourself is just you and your thoughts. The intimate time that you have with yourself is how you truly feel about yourself, not the Instagram time that you have with yourself. Two totally different versions. And so I know, Makini, that you really dive deep into a lot of these conversations on your podcast, the Heal Her podcast. So for all of the people who are tuned in right now that need to come on over and make sure they subscribe to your show, please let them know how they can stay connected with you, where and when they can listen to your podcast, and where we can find you online.
Absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. Online, they can find me on my website, makinismith.com or walkmystilettos.com. If they're looking for self-publishing, I have my other business, legacylevers.ca. On Instagram, I am the real Makini Smith. I don't know who that other Makini Smith is. And
not the real one, the fake one.
Right? And the Heal Her podcast is available on all podcast platforms.
Thank you, Makini. Y'all, I'm going to drop the link to our previous episode from 1,000,000 years ago, back in 2019, so that you can definitely see the growth. I always say, like, pre-pandemic me, I don't even know who that was. So I love being able to revisit these conversations and just see, how far we've come. And we're still on the journey. That's the other thing that I hope you get from this and every other conversation that I have here on the podcast, is that even your favorite ain't got it figured out. Like, we are all on a journey. There is a destination. We are literally just figuring it out one day at a time. And hopefully our stories, our experiences will help encourage you to stop playing with your potential. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Send this episode to a friend, and I'll catch you next week. So if you enjoyed that episode, I'm willing to bet you are absolutely going to get your entire life when you log on to everybodylied.com. Y'all, I just launched my brand new blog, which is for women like me who are stepping into the newness of life, okay? Your girl got engaged, got pregnant, got married, and became a mom all in less than a year, and life came at me fast. As life was life, and I realized that a lot of the things that I had been led to believe were a lie. Survey says that was a lie. And so I am sharing all of my lessons learned and what I have discovered to be the truth, along with some resources, on my new blog, everybodylied.com. Come on over if you are a woman who is experiencing the newness of life. I'll see you there.
Did you know a 2018 study showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual. When I was 4 months pregnant, I couldn't find a prenatal I could trust, so I created my own. Ours is made traceable, third-party tested for heavy metals, and recently earned the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. But don't just take my word for it. Get 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
Build up to Black Friday with savings all month long at Lowe's. Get up to 50% off select major appliances, plus take an additional 10% off when you buy select major appliances. And don't wait to pick up holiday inflatables under $20. Don't wait to save, in-store or online now, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 11/6 through 12/4. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items while supplies last.